everyone, I'm Liz Brown Swanson. Welcome to Community Connection on Location. Today I'm out here on the McBride Trail in Rancho, Palos, Verdes. Behind me is 191 acres, known as the Upper Filiorum property. Now for years, the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, along with the Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy, have been trying to acquire this property, and they finally did it, giving this community more open space than ever before. Now we're going to hear from some of the key players that put this deal together.
Hi, I'm Joel Rojas. I'm the Director of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement for the city, and I've been working for the city for a while, and we're standing here on the McBride Trail overlooking the city's most recent acquisition of Upper Filiorum, 190 acres that the city just acquired a couple of weeks ago.
And we keep referring to this in the community now as putting the missing piece of the puzzle together. Joel, explain that.
Yes, since the mid-90s, the city's been trying to put together a preserve as part of its NCCP, its Natural Communities Conservation Plan. The idea is to set forward a preserve, and we've had pieces of the preserve put together. The city made a purchase in 2001, the Three Sisters parcel. In 2006, we purchased the Hahn acquisition, and so what we needed is something to join the two, and this 190 acres does just that.
So you're talking about over almost 1,000 contiguous acres here now of open space for the community.
Yes, almost 1,400 acres.
Total for the preserve.
That's correct, 1,400 acres of open space conserved in perpetuity.
Of course, this is very exciting that this property has now been deeded to the city, but a lot of key players, obviously, for starters, the Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy. Explain that partnership, how that all comes together.
Well, like I said, in the mid-90s, the city was trying to put together its NCCP, and there were a lot of different alternatives being looked at for these properties in terms of what's preserved and what isn't preserved. In 2001, the city partnered with the Conservancy and was able to strike agreements with the two major landowners here, York of York Long Point Associates and Mr. Barry Hahn, and was able to secure agreements for almost 700 acres of open space. And since that time, the city has been working with the Conservancy to try to get agreements and to acquire the necessary funding to make those agreements real.
This last agreement, it took a long time. Was it ever going to happen? Did you ever feel that way?
I could tell you I had my moments. I mean, there was times where there were all kinds of issues, appraisals that were rejected by the state, changes from the seller on what portions he wanted to sell or not sell. There were situations with the state bond freeze. There was a time where the actual seller said, everything's off the table. We're not selling anything. We're going to pursue development. So yeah, there were times where it got a little nervous, but I think in the end, I knew that this was the time for him to sell, and we were committed, and so we worked until it happened.
When you sit here and you look at this incredible view, and what's here now for the community, how would you describe really what's here?
Well, not only is it gorgeous, as you can see, I mean, it's open space, it's framed by the ocean, but I think more importantly, just looking at it, there's habitat here. I mean, for the folks who know about the native habitat of the peninsula and its history, there's protected animals here, there's protected plants, so part of what exists here is preserving those plants and animals for everyone to enjoy for generations to come. But even for those who are not into the biology or the plants and animals, what we have is a amenity here for the public to use at any time for exercise, passive recreation. Most people recognize this site as being as a fenced-off area. The seller had fences on some key entrance points. Now those fences are gone, so anyone can come here and enjoy the trails as they exist today.
What will be the challenge of keeping these this open space maintained?
Well, the challenge is going to be not only from a biological perspective of enhancing the habitat, but also to manage it in a way that allows the public to be here but does not impinge on the habitat. And just like we've learned with other portions of the preserve, it's having a trails plan, having designated trails that are allowed and those that are closed, and having enforcement. We have our rangers that are out in the preserve, so we are going to obviously let them know about this piece of property, and they're going to be patrolling this property as well.
Of course, as we're standing here, we can't help but notice what's going on with the burn area from the wildfires in August, where 180 plus acres went up. What's going on with that in terms of efforts to restore that?
Well, you know, that's correct. The burn area is over on the near this property. The rangers are patrolling that area because it is still closed to the public, and we're evaluating the situation because now we've had some rain, we've had some growth, new growth, and so actually we plan on sitting down with the Conservancy, our land manager, to give us some advice on what we should do in terms of reopening that area.
Of course, we'll be talking with Andrea Vona, head of the Land Conservancy. Talk a little bit more about the partnership that we have and how they manage and just sort of that relationship.
Well, I think the relationship was key because the city, as landowner, is entrusted with the property, but also we need management, and the city doesn't have the resources to do those things. And the Land Conservancy has a long history of managing properties, and so what we have been able to do is convince the resource agencies and the state, the ones who give us all these millions of dollars, that we have a viable partnership and that the city will own the property, but the Conservancy will help us manage it. And I think that idea of a land trust being the manager of city property was very appealing to the state and federal agencies who were able to give us the state and federal grants.
And in terms of using this property, of course, in the recent years, we're hearing a lot of debate over, is it for hikers, bikers, equestrian use? What's going on in sort of the dynamics of who can come out and use the trails when and where?
Well, the City Council approved a preserve trails plan, and it was a trails plan that took a couple of years to develop, based on a lot of input from a lot of residents and non-residents. And the idea of the plan is to share the preserve amongst all the users. And so the idea is that some trails are multi-purpose, some are not for different reasons. And again, we try to enforce that plan with our rangers. And so we hope to do the same thing here on this piece of property as well.
All right. Anything you want to add you think is important for the community to know specifically about this latest purchase with Upper Filiorum? Just your excitement, things that you think it's important that the community really understands about what's here for them.
I think the most important issue here, or benefit that we all get, is the linkage. If you look at a map of the preserve, there was a glaring hole where and now that hole is no longer. So from just a connectivity situation, you can now look at the preserve, and it is a huge, giant, really a circle of open space that includes the coast. And so the connectivity from a biological perspective is great, but also from trails. So now you can actually go from trails over on the city's Barkentine property, the old Barkentine property, Three Sisters, and walk all the way over to the Hahn property. What was the Hahn property is now the Portuguese Bend Reserve. And there's some great trails here that many people have not been able to use because it's been fenced off. So I think people need to come out and check this stuff out.
Are there any particular trails that are your favorite? I know you're a runner, so I don't know where you like to go.
Well, there's some really cool vantage points along the canyons. There's some eucalyptus groves down there that on a warm day when you're heading uphill, it's really shady and nice, and you just kind of hang out. So I think the public's really going to enjoy those areas, and those are areas that we've already identified as kind of nodes for as benches and other things for the public.